Do you really know anything at all? According to external world skeptics, you don't know anything beyond your own mind. In this video, we're going to look at what external world skepticism is and why those skeptics say that about your knowledge. By the end of the video, you're going to know all the arguments, so you're going to be able to make your own mind up about whether the skeptics get it right and whether you really know anything at all. And we're going to start doing that right now. Okay, skepticism. When we're talking about skepticism in general, we mean taking an attitude of doubt, or not just chucking your belief out there, your credulity too easily, taking an attitude of doubt. That's what it is to be skeptical. Often that is a very useful thing to have, particularly in the world we live in at the moment, with fake news flying all over the place, politicians from left and right telling us all kinds of different stuff. How do you process and deal with all that conflicting information? Well, a very useful thing to do is to take a skeptical stance, right? If someone's telling you something, don't just believe what they say straight off the bat, but say, well, hang on a minute there. I'm going to need a little bit more evidence, a little bit more persuading before I start to believe what you're telling me. Okay. That is taking a skeptical stance. Maybe doubt is your default position. You just don't throw your belief, your credulity out there too easily. So what are we talking about with external world skepticism? So this phrase, external world, it's not a great phrase. It's not very precise, but basically we're dividing up the world into the internal and the external. So the internal is all the stuff going on in your mind. Pains and pleasures and feelings of cold and hot and happiness and the taste of cappuccino and the way the world sees to you. Your mind. That's the internal world. Also stuff like your beliefs and your desires, possibly, that's a bit more contentious, but depends what you think about beliefs and desires, but they probably go in there to some extent. That's the internal world. The external world is everything else. I guess my own body, that's the external world. The table here, that's the external world. You guys over there, that's the external world. And then there's your beliefs and desires and pains and pleasures. Okay, that is your internal world, but it's external for me. Okay, so there's my internal stuff, there's your internal stuff, and the external world, I guess, is the shared external world. So we have to be clear about distinguishing between my experience of stuff, like my experience of the table, I can see it and I feel it when I knock it. That's internal to me, the experience, but then there is the table itself, and that is something in the external world. So what's external world skepticism? Well, it's taking an attitude of doubt or lacking knowledge about stuff in the external world, or about the external world in its entirety. Like, is there a world out there beyond my own mind? How can I know about it? That's really getting to the heart of external world skepticism. So before we go on and say a bit more about that philosophically, you might be thinking, well, why would you want to be skeptical about that? I mean, how does that help anyone? And the answer is, it doesn't. It's not a good thing. You don't want to be an external world skeptic. The question is, how do you avoid it? So we all have knowledge about the external world, like I know that I'm sitting here talking to you, or rather I'm talking into a camera that I hopefully gets to you at some point, or at least I think I know that stuff. But do I really know it? I believe it. I believe that I'm here with my body. I can feel it, and there's a camera and you're at the other end of it. But do I really know that stuff? Couldn't I be wrong about it? And this possibility of being wrong, this possibility of error, seems to say, maybe you don't really know the stuff that you think you know about the external world. So before we get on to the really kind of big argument about external world skepticism, let's just think about this connection between knowledge and error. Okay, so I look at my weather app and it says it's going to rain at 3 p.m. So I say, okay, I know it's going to rain at 3 p.m. So I kind of stay in, I don't go out for a walk then. And then at 3 p.m. I look out and I go, oh, it's not raining, it's dry. My weather app got it wrong. I didn't know it was going to rain now. I believed it. I thought it was going to rain. I had good evidence, like based on the weather app, but I didn't know it, because to know something, it's got to be true, right? Okay, so the fact I was wrong about it shows that I didn't know it in the first place. And then I go to myself, well, I'm looking at my weather app now and it's saying on the next day it's going to rain at 3 p.m. Okay, so maybe I believe it, but I know that my weather app can get it wrong. In fact, it gets it wrong quite a bit. So maybe I don't really know it's going to rain at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Even if it does, in fact, rain at 3 p.m. tomorrow, so I believe it and it's true, do I really know it? Well, there doesn't seem to be enough of a reliable connection between what the weather app's saying now and what happens to the weather, in fact, tomorrow, in order to give me genuine knowledge. So here it's the mere possibility of error that seems to say, maybe you don't really know what you think you know. The mere possibility of error seems to play havoc with knowledge. But the mere possibility of error about anything in the external world seems to be easy to cook up. Here's an argument coming from Descartes, really famous argument in the Meditations. You think you're sitting in front of a camera right now trying to talk to people on YouTube, but you could be dreaming. I mean, it would be kind of weird if I had this kind of dream, but I suppose I could be dreaming for all I know. I might be having a super realistic dream and it's just like this, and I'm saying these words, but in fact, I'm lying in my bed, nice and warm, tucked up, not sitting here talking to you guys. It just seems to me that I'm doing that stuff. How would I tell the difference? Well, maybe you think, yeah, that doesn't really convince me because, you know, dreams kind of feel a bit like dreamy and reality feels a bit like reality and probably I wouldn't be dreaming this stuff. But you get the idea, right? You have some dreams, it felt like stuff was happening, then you wake up and realized it wasn't. The stuff that you thought you knew in the dream, you didn't really know. Couldn't reality be like that right now? Couldn't all this be a dream? Loads of films like that where the guy wakes up at the end, it's like, oh, it was all a dream. If I am in a dream right now, then there isn't a table right here, so if I can't rule out the possibility of a dream, I can't really know that there's a table right here, and just ditto for literally every fact that I think I know. I don't know any of it. Another argument that comes from Descartes, forget the dreaming stuff, he's got this malicious demon, so some kind of supernatural entity who can kind of fiddle with what's going on in your mind, and he's just putting ideas in your mind, not based on reality, okay? So there's me, and there's this demon who comes along and goes, I'm going to trick Mark today into thinking that he's recording a YouTube video about external world skepticism. Okay, so I'm not really doing that right now, but the demon has tricked me, and it seems to me like I am recording a YouTube video. So those arguments both come from Descartes. There's kind of a modern version which kind of tightens things up a little bit, and this comes from the 20th century American philosopher Hilary Putnam, and he gives a story that goes like this. So you're lying in your bed one night, and along comes a bunch of evil scientists, and they take your brain out of your skull, they keep the brain kind of alive, and they hook all the neurons up to this kind of supercomputer, and they put it in this vat of fluid that keeps it alive. It's got all the nutrients it needs in there. And what the supercomputer's going to do is it's going to send electrical signals into your brain in exactly the same way that it would if you were actually watching YouTube right now. Okay, so there's some pattern of electrical activity that corresponds to you watching me on YouTube, and that's what the supercomputer is going to do to your brain. So it's going to seem to you that you're sat on YouTube watching me talking about external world skepticism, but you're not actually doing that. What you actually are right now is a brain in a vat of fluid hooked up to a supercomputer whose neurons are being stimulated as if you're watching this stuff. How would you know the difference? Well, the idea is by definition, you wouldn't know the difference because it seems exactly the same to you. So there are these two scenarios. The real scenario, you watching YouTube, and the simulated scenario, you, a brain in a vat. You can't tell the difference between them from the inside because, by hypothesis, each one seems exactly the same from the inside. But if you can't tell one from the other, and in one of them you genuinely are watching YouTube and in the other you're not, then you can't know whether you're watching YouTube or not. Here's a way of putting that as a logical deduction. If you know that you're watching YouTube right now, then you know that you're not a brain in a vat, but you don't know that you're not in a brain in a vat right now. So you don't know that you're watching YouTube right now. You don't know whether you are or whether you're not. The same applies to everything that you think you know about the external world. General conclusion, you don't know anything about the external world. That's external world skepticism. Philosophy is full of difficult terminology and difficult concepts. If you want to see more videos like this, go and take a look at this playlist up here. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, thank you so much to my Ko-Fi supporters for making this content possible. I hope to see you guys back here soon.